relatively regularly.
Hey.
Mm.
Okay.
And what's like, I do think it's important. It's interesting. Naganale newspaper some years back called Southern Star, and Nigungola a lot around, brain drain, where
Yeah.
over 80% of class Yaga High School at Machabeng
Yeah.
are all outside of Lesotho.
Yeah.
And I used to lament the fact that in some ways we lose a lot of the minds that can help build and develop the country.
Mm.
I think over the last 10 years, there are people who have been coming back.
Mm.
I also think that there is a way of us contributing to the space without necessarily living there full time and being in the space.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the questions I was going to ask you. So, I mean, I believe the exact same thing. I myself live in South Africa, partially because I have kind of studied a thing that doesn't have a home here. So I'm a curator, and it's very difficult for, I think, myself to establish find a gap in what's happening in the society right now. But I think it's still important to. I'm not used to there. I did something.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know how to get back, but oh, great. Technology. But I think it's still really important to, through initiatives such as this, to engage, I think, and kind of create dialogues with diasporic members of Basotho. Because I feel like
Yes.
the reason I did this project was because I found that there were so many really, really accomplished, really well-known people that I was encountering in South Africa. That South Africa has sort of claimed as a this is not I mean not the we also blend in really well. So as like really accomplished South Africans, I think of someone like Kojo Baffoe, who I'd actually invited to partake in this project, who's this really accomplished photographer living in France. But because he's like displaced twice, he's like diaspora twice, he is now known as a South African immigrant living in France. It's a very weird thing that happens as we kind of move out into the world and into our various professions. So I'm really I think it's great what you're saying, that it's important that we can find ways to engage with the country and do things. I mean, it could be a really small thing, but do things that in some way impact what's going on from outside, because I feel like I don't know if you feel the same. Perhaps as a question, from your position, you're able to perhaps do a little bit more, actually, or have access to a little bit more than you would necessarily have access to based within the country.
What's that again? I mean, like you're saying, how Sheba? So can you hear me?
Yeah, but it's feedbacking quite badly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
I can. Yeah. That's a little better.
No, I was saying exactly what you're saying. Like how Sheba, even in South African society, across all kinds of major organizations, it's about such. And I mean, the challenge I have, like you have a Miss Chavele sitting there. In South Africa and Lesotho, there are Chaveles. In South Africa and Lesotho, there are Molapos and all of these different people. So it's easy to cross the border and be able to assimilate.
Yeah.
I'm there are only a few buffers in Lesotho.
Yeah.
And I'm always going to be set apart in South Africa because I couldn't get an ID just because I could say I couldn't say no because I live in Bloemfontein and my family is from South Africa. And I won't lie, I do have a problem with it sometimes where you have people, ba hlahileng Lesotho kapa ba phetse Lesotho, or they have some kind of relationship with Lesotho, and then aba fihla ka nqenana, there's a gap CV, like where all of a sudden it's like, from from 1990, from 1985 to 1990, there's a hole because that's the time they were in Lesotho. So I think it is important. For me, my roots are very important. Where I come from is very important. The places and the people that have helped make me the person I am are very important. And Lesotho is a very large part of that. And I can't run away from it. And taking that into consideration, it is important for it. Like Hanachana Musibiti Waka. Infa access to certain spaces and certain people that if I'm able to then take them and harness, I can use that to contribute to where I come from, to Lesotho. And I mean, the people. There's a guy Abubakar Jabi, who I grew up with him, and Honajana, he's constantly back and forth between Johannesburg and Maseru he's putting together a little foundation where he's got Motote's support, and just in an attempt to go, and we have that access. How do we take that back home to ensure that home doesn't get left behind? So, like I said, I mean, my bio, if you want to call it, and when I tell people say, "Where are you from?" I'm like, I'm half German, half Ghanaian from Lesotho. And they'll go, "What you mean?" I'll go, "But those are all the places that made me who I am today." And it's important that I contribute, just like I think I'm contributing to South Africa. It's important that I also contribute to where I come from. As they say, how to a guy, that's about where guy.
O na le dipotso o ka nna mmotsa ntho tse di nahanneng o tlile na o entseng na o tswa kae o nahanang ha ke tsebe na o na le dipotso
be ke batla tsa phana ke Mosotho straight hantle a go le Lesotho mona o le o sala ka bana bua so a se sena le se sa
ke Mosotho a bo la tete o ntsa tshware ka gore o hotse Lesotho fela ha ila hantle batswadi ba ha ke motswadi wa ha le mong o tsa Ghana e mong o tsa Germany jale ba kopane ba moetsa ya ba jale ba tlhodila Lesotho nako e telele ntate wa hae o ntsa dula monana ke motho a tsebahalang haholo Lesotho
le le tsena
ke ntate ba
le passport ke ya Lesotho ke phela ka passport ya Lesotho ha ke na passport e nngwe
ba matsatsi
o le go diwa ke le ona tlo go ona
Hona jale o Afrika Borwa
ya akaretsa le bitso la moo
o Gauteng
Johannesburg Pitori le se ka Pitori
Johannesburg
Johannesburg okay ha ka nete le nna ke thabela go bua le motho a Lesotho mona sa ngale kwana go botsa gona go natefela go dula kwana pheto a dula mona yena ke fi bohlokwa ke bofi ba o dula kwana go tilile mona bohlokwa ba o se dule mona ke bofeng
what's like o tle ke tlile Gauteng ke batla tšhelete le ka ba bang jale ha ke fihla mona ke ka thola mosadi so o tla go thata go nka mosadi go mo isa Maseru
ke batla masimo okay wa e tshwana go mona ke itse ka taba tsa masimo le mesebetsi ya mo go hlaola go le malwalo bona ke tsa diperekisi tsa letilana go etelele ka dibotlolo le mangangajane na kwana o bua ka sebetsa ka tsa magarisa batho ba ma se ba tletse tsa bona ke le tsetela gona le bele che motho pela ga uti ga tseba wena o sa hana o tla hae sa bua ka go
hello ka bona le di computer ke bana
wa hana o tla okay empa gona ka ba go ba ntse ba etsa gona temo dintho tsa botjhaba ka mona ka go kopana tsenana le bona tsa dintho tsa botjhaba melani le ka motho tsa bo ha tswetse tla go tla patsa ka leri ka tsa ditulo tsa botjhaba ha o dula ka ya botla Mosotho fe ka pofe o se mo fa
so mo fa
ya dula fa sa
so
ke ditseng sona ile hape re re dikotlolo ka lekgala le re tseba go mosotho ka kwa mo fa dijo ga mo felle fase se mo fella ka sekotlolong re mo fella ka sekotlolong sa lekgatsa botšhaba ha o bueletse o ile masimong so ba mo gela diperekisi ka sekotlolong se mo fa ka sa lekgala tselana go se ka mo ka podi ya pola tsela ka mo sekotlolong a di ntsa ska be sale ntsa reka na go hle ka ofela bina go matla ka dintlo tsa naga fela di itse wena ba hae
Ntate Lazarus mohlomong o ka reletsa ka go wena o tseba Morija a nne ntse ke hlalosa go mona as the creative gore ke mo di arts di etsang haholo Lesotho mona mohlomong o re qoqele le Kojo gore na mona ha ile ha fihle o fetsa jwang artist ba sebetsa jwang ha o le artist na go bobebe go sebetsa go le batho ba tlang ba le bona jwalo le lona le tsamaya le ba bona ntho tsa lona mesebetsi ena e le entseng na le tsebe go rekisa kwanana ka nqane ka ntle kapo go jwang
di fella kwana
kapo e fella
ke batho ba bang ba tswang gore gona ka na mokgwa ntle ka go taba ya kopane le ho thwe ba ka ya dibakeng tse ding ba ikopantse gore na ba rekisa eng ba etsa eng ka matsogo a bona mme ka botswa dikgomo jaaka letsopa fela yo se mabenkele wa boneng ka mane ka letsopa bonkgole dikhapu jwalo wa bona jwale gona tjena ga bontsha gore ha re etse ka tibene tjena ke pula ka ta o jana mokebereje ka tiba ke kgomo nthwena ha o keta o jana mo botse ka tiba tsa ka tiba o se ka o keta o jwa ba ntho ntho o elahla ba go mo ka maka investi ka tla be ga pere botšhaba ka mogobotse ba go jana maka go ya pare matlalo a tsona jwale re tla ntse le wa tsa manane le botšhaba ba na ya bo ke thabile wa mina le mongana
batho ba ke bana ba tshaba di-camera everybody focus on the screen and not actually talking so please come and engage talk in the screen ask him a question we have him for 5 more minutes does anybody have any more thoughts questions you're welcome to approach okay everyone's super shy so
okay. I would like to say I actually interestingly enough I think it was about 2004 2005
yeah
I actually came through to Morija to perform when I was doing poetry and I brought down a couple of South African poets to come and perform and engage with the space.
Oh, that's fantastic. Who did you bring? Who did you bring?
I brought Lebo Mashile, Kabomo Napo Mashiane, and a guy called Ayob.
That's fantastic. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was because I used to organize gigs, and so I took guys to a couple of places.
Okay, this is Mrs. Khabele of the little Khabele you were seeing just now on the other screen. The mother of
utlwa taba tse monate tseo ntse di bua jwale ke ne ke batla nna ke utlwa ona ka lehlakoreng la mmela Jeremiah how much can you tell us ka culture ya Jeremiah kapa o la duela haholo ka Ghana le Lesotho fela
America is actually 1 year old.
Oh, okay.
So I can't Germany except for the Kinamono for Selemo, Kamara High School. I get high school in Klagamono for a year. So in terms of culture thing, there's not a lot. The biggest influence has been Lesotho.
Okay.
And
culture?
And then just in terms of
Ghanaian culture is very much involved in Ghanaian activities.
Yes. So all the things he's doing, I'm doing with him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So while he's there and I'm here, we talk every week, and because I grew up Kimosabilita, I think our relationship, a lot of it is still work.
Okay.
And I mean, Unalemona last weekend and the weekend before, and I think we're probably going to Ghana together in a couple of weeks.
Okay. ka nnete ke a leboga ke thabela gobane o na le diversity ya di-culture tsena mme ke nagana gona re ithuta tsona dipampiring ebile ke thabile gore ntate o buile ka batho ba university gobane jwale ba bua sekgowa ba lebala le Sesotho sa bo rona. Jwale ha o bua ditaba tsa meetlo ya Lesotho o tla utlwa tsa ntho tsa Basotho tse fela motho a ntsa e le Mosotho ka bo yena. Jwale I'm happy gore wena o are proud gore Mosotho o na le passport ya Lesotho. Yet ho na le ba bangata ke a kgola ba batlang to be divorced from being Basotho, yet to be a Mosotho is such a very interesting and valuable idea. Hape ha ba bone worth ya bona e le Basotho. Haufinyane ke ne ke ntse ke bua le ntate Kgabele a bolela hore ntho tsena tsa matlalo tsena ntho tsena tsa nkare I think what we need to do ha se hore re apare diphahlo tsa makgowa hore rona matlalo a rona re bone rona re ka etsa jwang hore ra ntlafatse re tswele pele ho a teng ho no di meditations ke hlokahalang hore di etsahale hape ka baka la hore di-moral tsa rona di ntse di senyeha. I think we need really to at university level, at all levels of school, re ke re rute bana ba rona hore na di-morals ke ntho ya mofuta ofeng, re rute bana ba rona respect ke ntho ya mofuta ofeng, re rute bana ba rona because they become individualistic because maybe it's computers, because it's the smartphones or whatever. Ha ona le bona ha ba qoqe le wena ba shebane le dintho tsena di-instruments tsena tsa bona ene ha ba na taba go teng pela bona, so that you can even give them some ideas tsa hore ha re etse tjena le tjena, but they look backward at us hore can't we are backward people, so bona they are moving forward. I don't know forward to where.
We had a great just before this we had a great conversation with Ntabi Sibanda, who does poor educational products. I'm sure you may have.
Yeah, and I grew up with them.
Okay, great. She was. I mean, this is sort of touching on what Memabela is saying, in relation to kind of not forgetting language and culture, and her feeling as though she's raising her children in. I mean, her husband is from elsewhere, and you're not Lesotho, so there's a little bit of a disconnect between, what do you teach your children? And she says a lot of people were quite resistant or negative about her wanting to teach them many languages because it was like you're going to confuse a child. But this is why she developed poor educational products to keep this kind of, I suppose, make sense of this diasporic position where we find ourselves. You're married to a South African lady, abuang a language, and how to kind of keep the culture, or at least the elements of the various cultures that have formed our identities now, preserved.
Look, it's an extremely difficult one. So I don't know if you can hear me. It's an extremely difficult one. Like with my children, it's been important for me for them to learn Sesotho. But I'm the only person who speaks it in my house. The previous nanny we had was a Mosotho, and we got her because then at least my children would get to hear Sesotho spoken. And so it's very hard. Like my son is 6 now, so it's very hard with him because he knows words.
Yeah,
but in the house we speak mainly English. So and I also got because Ntabiseng gave me all the stuff, and I was kind of involved. I was one of the first people they interviewed around language because as a writer, language is important to me. And it's something that I'm still trying to figure out how to make work. Because for me, it's important that my children know more than one language. And it's important that, like my son has started going home on holiday because he has cousins there, and that's part of who I am. So it's important that he understands that space. The thing about, I remember I must have been about 15, 16 years old, and I asked my father, I was like, we could have gone anywhere in the world. The UN wanted him to go work there. the World Bank wanted him to go work there. I'm like, we could have gone to New York or London or back to Germany. Why Lesotho? Like, of all places in this world, this small country, so, you know, landlocked by one country. Why Lesotho? And he looked at me and said, but you turned out all right, didn't you? And one of the things that I tell people here, I've had this when I'm interacting with young people here, where I say I grew up in a space where hlompo is the biggest thing. You don't have to like me as a human being, but respect that I'm another human being. And for me, that's what Lesotho is about. And so just like Mekhabele is saying, the problem is that a lot of the young people are losing that value. So when I was growing up, I'm out socially, and one person I'm standing with a doctor, the other one is a waiter, the other one maybe steals cars. But we're interacting from a basis of respect. It's not about what you do for a living. It's that you're another human being. So as opposed to anything else. And I think it's a problem that we're having everywhere, and I don't know how we can start to fix it. You know, it's a problem I see in South Africa. I interact with young people, and I remember years ago having a big argument with some friends because I was like, "Mohlomong Bohile very different," because now where I come from, the starting point is from, and then I'll have people interacting me with a particular way, and it's like the office I work in. But to make it who are much younger than I am will be in the office, and this is, you know, Zulu, Sotho, etc. They'll be like, Kimatap, whenever officing, and na so, you know, Otamo Holo from Kimotamo Holo. And just because, like, maybe I'm her boss, doesn't change for now how I'm going to treat her. I will always treat her with that respect because of the wisdom and, you know, the years that she's been around. And it's a problem that we're having so many places. And I don't know how we'll fix it, but I think things like what Tabi is doing, you know, with Buo is, you know, I think will help.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think you remind me of the Kim Moshweshwe, the legacy he left for us is respect, love each other, love one another, peace, neighborliness, unity, and poverty reduction. And in economic terms, you'd call it barter exchange. If you have salt and have sugar, you exchange so that at least you have everything in your house. And then the morals, which are very important. And as you are saying, I think we do need maybe a forum or something so that we can start all over, because part of what is happening now might be us parents. We send our children to English medium schools and they forgot the language. If you forget your language, you are doomed, because most of the things are learned through a language. And it doesn't matter what. You have to know Sesotho thoroughly, you have to know English thoroughly, so that, or German, so that you understand the culture in that particular country. So I think I've talked too much. Bye.
Just like that. Okay, well, thank you so much, Kojo. I think this is fantastic. I hope this is kind of one of the first of these diaspora dialogues. I'm hoping that, I mean, I don't know if I told you already, but we got computers donated to the museum, which is fantastic, that we're Skyping on now. So I'm hoping that this kind of infrastructure remains, and these kind of things can happen in the future, whether with me or someone else who kind of takes it on. And I'm really interested to later talk about the poetry thing that you did here in Morija. I get the same thing about painting, but I'm retired too. But no, I mean, in terms of perhaps thinking of, in the future, different ways to do stuff during the festival, because I feel like there's a lot of music going on, There's a lot of music. I mean, Bontate and Patrick have a great art program, but there isn't a core, I think, creative, interactive thing that's going on here in terms of the arts. So I think it's important for people like us, or at least people who are in the diaspora and in the creative fields, to begin dialogues about possibilities and see what could be done. It's very easy. I learned from this. We're Skyping in like the oldest building in Lesotho, which is, you know.
I mean, that space is extremely important, and like you're saying, it is important that we help the space grow. I mean, the festival's been happening for many years.
Yeah.
It needs to start getting to the point where it's all encompassing. It encompasses Lesotho. It reaches out beyond. I mean, unless you know about it, even if you're outside, unless you know about it, I just find that there's not enough push behind it, and I think it's great what you're doing, because that space it's an important space.
Yeah.
We can't lose the space and its impact.
Absolutely, and it has. I mean, it stores the entire history of like the Basotho nation is stored here at the Morija Museum and Archives, and the heart of the museum is fantastic. They just don't have a lot of financial support. So financial and creative and blah blah blah. So I've taken it upon myself to be a self-proclaimed ambassador for the museum.
Right.
Totally decided on my own. And anyway, whatever. I look forward to chatting to you soon.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.